OS is one of those games that can run on literally anything that has a display, which I feel like is a given considering the game will legally be allowed to drink in a few months. The world of PCs has progressed a lot in the last 18 years. If you were to compare a GPU from 2007 to one released this year, the performance difference would be in the hundreds or even thousands of times. But huge technological progress doesn't necessarily mean that everyone has the newest hardware out there. There is still a huge amount of people whose daily drivers are more than a decade old. And as you might imagine, those PCs don't really fare that well in today's world. Sure, they might still work and you might even be able to watch YouTube on them, but the performance in games might be a bit below standard. In such cases, people turn to YouTube for optimization guides to try and get the most FPS out of their old granny GPU. But that is not what we're here for today. Today we're gonna take an old GPU that still can run OS and make it so it can no longer run OS. Welcome to the ultimate OSU Deoptimization guide. As our test subject today, I chose this little GT630 that I just had laying around. It's not a particularly new card. It was released back in like 2015 or 2016 if I remember correctly. But it wasn't the highest end model either. It was the predecessor to the infamous GT730. So I think it's a pretty good candidate for what we're going to be doing today. Now I'm just going to quickly mount that in there and see what we can do with it. So because of how dumb the NVIDIA drivers work, I had to take out my 2080 in order to put the 630 in, because otherwise the driver would just not recognize the card. It would only recognize the 2080 and the 630 would just not work. I also had to use this DisplayPort to HDMI dongle because I don't have a DisplayPort cable and the card doesn't have an HDMI slot, so this is like the only way it's gonna work. But at least this dongle is a relatively good one, and I'm pretty sure it can even do like 100 Hz at 1080p or something, so that's going to be useful when we're going to be doing the actual gaming. That is, if we get 100 FPS with this card. Oh yeah, that's what you like to see, the weird-ass resolution that makes no sense whatsoever. So I managed to set the resolution to 1080p, but the thing is that it's still not the full monitor. It's still in like a weird rectangle in the middle. I've never seen this happen before. Holy shit. I opened GeForce Experience to try and download some drivers which are not downloading for some reason, but that's besides the point. The more concerning part in this entire situation is the fact that they're from 2024. So like a year old. That is definitely a good sign, right? So I got the drivers from Google, and as you can see they're from 2015, which is even more promising than before. But when I tried running the installer, it just kind of failed for some reason, but we still got our full display resolution, so that's cool, I guess. But now we ran into a bit of a different problem, because every time I open Task Manager and go to Performance, it just kind of does that. So it just crashes and doesn't want to work anymore. But even with all the weirdness that was happening before, OS managed to start, and as you can see it works. Not necessarily very well, but it does work, so I'm gonna take that as a win. Okay, so I'm gonna do a test run just with the settings that I usually use, and we'll see what the average FPS will be. So after playing the map, the average frame rate was at 137, which is pretty close to the native refresh rate of this monitor, which is 144 Hz. So the in-game performance was pretty good, and if no one told me, I probably wouldn't even know that I'm playing on something from 2015. That being said, this is not what we came here to see. We came to see this GPU suffer. So first of all, let's go into settings, turn on all of the detail settings so our GPU has something to do. Let's also set the background dim to like 90% instead of 100, so our GPU has even more to do. And let's also turn on compatibility mode, since it may reduce game performance. Oh god, not the PP combo burst. No. Okay, so what I can tell you straight up is that the performance is definitely worse, as you can also see by the 109 FPS right there. And it kinda makes sense considering we are currently under the 144 Hz refresh rate of this monitor. So the experience is already not that great. But I bet I can make it worse. Let's see what happens if we go to the NVIDIA control panel and set it to quality instead of performance. That made zero difference. 110 is basically within the margin of error. Now, how about we break the GPU's leg by doing this? Yeah, that's definitely gonna turn out well. Yeah, so an average of 50 FPS is not something you would want in OS. And as you can see by that right there, it is no longer playable. But there is one more thing I want to try to see if we can make it even worse. What if we go to dynamic super resolution and set it to 4K? I like it how it starts in windowed mode because it doesn't believe in this GPU running at 4K. First of all, MSI Afterburner is really small now. And also, that reads 11 FPS. Oh, it's not even loading the map. The map just refuses to load at that low of an FPS. Okay, you know what? How about we reset the underclock and see what that does? Well, at least the map loaded, but it's at 20 FPS. Here's something funny. It says 26 FPS there, but if I move my cursor, it goes to like half of that. Oh, this is horrible. This is not what this GPU was made for. Okay, how about we do a healthy overclock of like 200, 400? Oh, it didn't like it. You know, maybe plus 200, plus 400 was a bit too ambitious. Let me go to like 150 and 200. Yeah, that did not change shit. I can't, man. It's running so bad. Fucking 25 FPS. I can't. So apparently if you want to de-optimize your OS as much as possible, this is the way to do it, I guess. So we're back at native resolution with all of my default settings loaded. And you know, after playing on 24 frames per second, 128 in the menu doesn't really seem that bad anymore. Yeah, so the moral of the story is, don't play OS in 4K on a GPU from 2015. That will not go well, like, just don't. And that brings me to the end of today's video. I have no idea what the point of me making this was, but I guess now you know how to fuck with your game performance if you ever need to. In any case, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Bye! I'm feeling lost without you.